Welcome, Ornery Mule Racing fans, to another Coach's Zoom. We are highlighting Coach Ryan Heywood this week. He's coming at us with some great ideas for workouts we can do outside of running and also how we can honor the workout. This is Coach Steve Streaker, and I'll be doing my best to moderate the Zoom today. Our leader at Ornery Mule Racing, Michelle Hartwig, is back at our trailhead in Crystal Lake, Illinois. We are pleased to also be joined by a number of our coaches at Ornery Mule Racing, including Coach Loretta Tobolske-Horn, Coach Steph Dannenberg, and Coach Val Thompson. We also have a number of our Ornery Mule Racing athletes in the Zoom. But Coach Ryan Heywood is in the hot seat today, and he's going to be coming at us with alternatives to running, workouts and things like that, and he'll field your questions. No further ado, I'll let him introduce himself here, a little background about himself and so forth. Ryan.
Hey, everybody. Well, thanks a lot. I was really looking forward to talking to everyone this weekend, this Saturday. At the same time, I'm like, how am I going to fill an hour with just me talking? I have no idea. So then I started writing all my notes out, and then I'm like, oh, how am I going to fit all my notes into an hour? And so it seemed to go back and forth between how am I going to talk for more than 5 minutes, or like, all right, I need 2 hours of people's time to talk about stuff today. So the topics that I'd love to get to today are the first one is alternative workouts to running, which a lot of times I call endurance WODs. The next topic would be like minimal strength. When you don't have a lot of strength equipment around you, and what can you do to continue to get stronger? And then honor the workout. It's kind of like a little mantra / hashtag that I just kind of been thinking about a lot, about honoring the workout. So, and I want to give a disclaimer out before we start or anything, like, as far as I am a coach, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a therapist. I'm coming at this with my own experience. I'm coming at with what I've learned. I've also from a lot of other different resources and training classes that I've done and stuff. But I don't claim to be the know-it-all of everything and have a perfect answer for everything. I think, but we as a collective can bring a lot of experiences together. So I just want to put that out there. At the same time, I want to put out that I'm not here to promote biohacks or anything like, oh, if you do this, you'll get this result. Like, if you sleep for 3 hours, and then this is the way we can make you run faster. I'm not here to promoting that. I'm just giving you alternatives to alternative workouts to running that I have found very useful in my own running, and have watched other runners and athletes use them and have seen benefit from them. So
Disclaimer noted.
Disclaimer noted.
Yeah.
I'm just going to spend the next hour on my disclaimer. And then I want to tell you that I'm not a professional cook. So, I guess if we go into the history of how I got into running, just so where I come from, we all have that story of like when running kind of took a hold of you and you didn't even know it was taking a hold of you at that time. Mine happened in sixth grade. We had a run around the block, and for time, it was like a little time trial. And I just kept on. It was the first day where I kept on passing everyone, and even I still got third place. But I felt like, I don't know, just something happened that day where it just like my body felt natural. It felt like it wanted to do it. I got excited to do it. I couldn't wait to do it again. So I can still remember that day, and I don't know if I've been chasing that one day the rest of my life. Like, oh, I just felt so magical back in sixth grade. But, I ran cross country and track in high school. We set the school record in my 2-mile relay that lasted for 10 years at my high school. I grew up in Nebraska, in between Denver and Omaha. So really there was a lot of sports, and my high school was very into sports, and we had a really strong track program, which got me a scholarship into college. I ran for 2 years at a small liberal arts school. It's like NAIA Division II, which I guess would be a little bit lower than the equivalent of NCAA Division III, if that makes any sense to anybody. You know, by the end of my sophomore year, I was the #1 cross country runner, and then I decided that I didn't want to run anymore, that it was too much like a job, and I took a little alcohol and drug break for 10 years and discovered that I can drown out my sorrows and my emotions with alcohol and drugs. And that was my new running addiction. You know, I was always into running, and then I replaced it with alcohol and drugs. And, you know, that is, everyone knows those stories of like where alcohol and drugs take you, especially if you develop it into a habit where you can no longer live without it, you know? So by the time I turned 31, I was in such a dark place, you know. I had to go and seek help and admit some really big things for myself. So when I'm 31, I got sober, you know, so that was 15 years ago. And I don't know, being sober for a couple of years, all of a sudden I was discovering that I wanted more out of life. And I went and watched the Chicago Marathon, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be doing this. I want to be running. This is amazing. So all of a sudden I was back at it. I was running. I was like training for my first marathon. And then of course, now I was in it. I did my first marathon on October 10th, 2010. I even have like the tattoo, I think. There we go. 10-10-10.
Nice.
When I got it. I wanted to make sure. That's the only reason I really signed up for the marathon, was I wanted to get the tattoo. So, you know, I'd run 5 marathons. And, you know, what was happening was, you know, I would gear up for the Chicago Marathon or marathon season and only run. That's the only thing I did was run. There's no other weight training. There was some mild stretching, but it was only like running, you know, either speed work or just really long, really fast. And I would just be like, you know, my marathons weren't necessarily successful as far as, it always felt like a lottery kind of gamble. It just felt like a gamble every time. Like I put all this pressure on that one day. And you know, then I would still eat like I was running a marathon, even when I wasn't running or training for a marathon. I don't know. I got pretty bored with it, actually. And then I watched a CrossFit documentary, and it totally inspired me to go start working out some. And I signed up for a Tough Mudder, and they had some programming there that I had never seen before. You know, it was programming that involved running, and it was programming that involved like air squats and pull-ups and all these different movements that I kind of knew of, but wasn't really familiar. I always thought I always separated the gym and running. Like those were 2 separate things. You couldn't do them together. And all of a sudden I discovered this whole world where you could place them together. And I noticed right away, like just doing it for a couple of weeks, my running, I felt stronger in my core. I felt, all of a sudden, it just felt like I was more put together. And that was pretty exciting for me. So I started going into CrossFit. Also, part of my disclaimer is, though, even though I am a CrossFit coach, I'm not here to promote CrossFit or any of the workouts that I do are CrossFit recognized. That's why I use a lot of endurance terms. They do have you sign like a little thing about this. So just so you know, when you become a CrossFit coach.
I think you're gonna make us sign a disclaimer before.
Exactly. Hey, someone put your name in the chat room, and I'll take it, and so they can pursue you and send you your waiver. You know, and so I started doing longer and longer runs using these endurance workouts and finding alternatives to running. Instead of constantly running all the time, I was mixing it up with a lot of strength and endurance workouts, and then also including that in my running. And I was starting to get success in completing things that I never thought I could complete before. So that kind of before I move on, do we have any questions out there for anyone before I kind of move on to the first topic?
How did that Tough Mudder go for you then?
Well, Tough Mudders are, it's really about group participation. And what I discovered out there was I felt I was sticking with my friends the whole time. And all I wanted to do was just go. I wanted to just run as fast as I could. I just wanted to compete. I really found like my competitive drive out there. And so the Tough Mudder went great as far as like, it sparked this like where I wanted to go next in my training, which was like I wanted to go compete in like obstacle course races. I wanted to go race. I wanted to race an age group. I didn't want to participate. I wanted to like run. Like that whole competitive drive just like came right out of me, and that was very exciting for me. I kind of gave me drive in my training, for sure.
You know, it's interesting. Michelle has interviewed at least 5 or so people on the dirt, and it's obstacle courses that was their gateway, or like Tough Mudder or Spartan, or it's interesting how that's kind of a gateway into endurance running, and a lot of people get the bug that way. But you were already running before the Tough Mudder, I understand.
But even that, yeah, I totally agree. Like obstacle course, it's really it kind of teaches you about how to suffer, like, and so but then what you want to do is continue to suffer more. You keep on upping the suffer game, like, oh well, that distance was only 6 miles, and now I want to do 14 miles. Well, now I want to do 30 miles of obstacle courses, and you can just keep on pursuing that. But also what happens that it's like, well, I've already done this like very difficult race that took me 8 or 9 hours. Well, how long is an ultramarathon? Oh, that's 16 hours. Oh, I can handle that. So it seems it's a very easy transition, and they work really well together when you're going back and forth with them. So
Great. Are there any questions then about Ryan's opening lines here? All right. So why don't you jump into your next thing, alternative workouts to running?
Yeah. So, alternative workouts to running. So I guess first I want to just get over the stigma of the word WOD, which means workout of the day. And I use that a lot, but I also don't want to scare anybody by like, we're going to start doing CrossFit, which when people start thinking of CrossFit, they start thinking of Olympic lifts and like clean and jerks and like a heavy barbell and someone straining their neck muscles to get a big weight up. Like, I'm simply saying WOD as far as workout of the day. So when I say endurance WOD, I'm simply saying endurance workout of the day. It's a simple little thing. And so for me, like the very simplest definition of like what an endurance WOD is for me is a workout involving movements in addition to being anchored to a cardio piece. So like a very simple way we could do, like, what was great about the Ornery Mule racing, the weekly challenges that Michelle talked about was, I think this last week or 2 weeks ago, they had one in which it was, they had to do 20 air squats, and then every minute on the minute, they had to do 20 air squats while trying to complete 1 mile run. Now this is a great endurance workout, though at the same time, like incredibly lactic acid heavy. Like I would span it out more, like maybe every 2 minutes or 3 minutes that I was programming this. But so to me, that's an endurance one. We have like a movement piece, and then we also have it anchored to a cardio piece, which is the running. So I'm going to go over just several, start out with the very simplest endurance WOD that you could do for running. And then I'll just kind of build in layers and layers as we go. So, first of all, why would we want to do an endurance WOD why would we want to do an endurance WOD as opposed to just running? Like, so running is monostructural, like it continues to, it's the same movement over and over and over again. And of course, like you put us on a trail, we're doing side steps and we're doing different things, but still it's very repetitive, right? And you need to be running to run races for sure. I'm not saying you come in here and this is also not part of the biohack, but a good way to enhance your running is to do workouts that kind of tax your body in a different way than just simply doing the repetitive motions over and over again. Also, these workouts will fatigue your body quicker, so that you get to kind of you get to experience that fatigue, and kind of like at the end of a race when your whole body is kind of like aching, and like you get to kind of you get to simulate those long runs in a totally different way, and then be able to push through that. I'll go over the benefits after I've explained a lot of the different types of endurance WODs that we can do. So the easiest and simplest way first that we can do is with endurance WOD number one is just adding weight. So what is that? You can be running with a weight vest. Do your run with a weight vest instead, or run with a backpack or a vest with weight in it. And oftentimes this is called ruck. Like do a ruck. So this will slow you down a lot more. This will also add fatigue a lot quicker. It just I think it also strengthens your core, since you're having to balance that weight on the middle of your body. Another thing that you can do is running with pulling a tire. If anyone's ever pulled a tire before, this is a great way for me to simulate like running up a hill, because you're constantly like having to lean forward with a tire, with a weight beam pulling on the back of you. So what I did was just get like a very simple harness that you can buy from Rogue or any place that sells harnesses and weights and such, fitness equipment, and then it has a nice long attachment to it. And then I found a tire in an alley that someone had thrown away, and I attached it to the tire. And just so you know, if you are pulling a tire in the street, people will slow down when they are seeing you. They will you get the mixture of like kind of jaws are dropping, like, what are you doing, to the other side of it of like, you're amazing, you're pulling a tire. Especially during quarantine, they must think I'm just like the most bored person in the world. I'm like, I'm pulling a tire out in the middle of the street. So but
it's sorry to interrupt, Ryan, but you're stimulating, you're making me remember and a lot of conversations we had with Coach Juan. He has that military training in the background, and of course they do a lot of backpack and kind of weighted type of hikes and runs when he was young, doing that type of training. And he said once that the ruck runs, were the ones that really made him like mentally tough. And so I think there's that aspect of just the mentalness, right? The mental strength that you gain from an activity like that. And maybe after you comment again, maybe one of the other coaches or one of the athletes wants to comment on whether they've used anything weighted in their training.
I'll share if you want.
Yeah, Coach Loretta. Yeah.
So that kind of reminds me, I used to coach a lot of high school athletes and some adults, and we used the CrossFit endurance style stuff. And we took a great big like army bag and we filled it with weight, and that was one of their favorite workouts, and we did a relay with it. So I would set up teams, and they would each have one of those big bags, and they had to deadlift it and then carry it over however they could carry it. And we would take turns. Every so far they would switch off carrying that bag, and we would run to the cemetery. We call it the dead body carry, and whoever wasn't at practice that day was in the bag. And we would race up and down the hills doing like an exchange. The kids had so much fun, but yeah, they were getting an awesome workout. So even when you're doing these kinds of things, if you can get other people talked into doing it, it makes it a lot more fun too.
Yeah. Has anybody else experimented with weighted vest or anything like Coach Ryan's described here? Yeah, I'd like to try something like this, Coach.
Yeah, and if you think also about like, most of us run with running vests, and it's going to be full of, your rain jacket and your food and your light and who knows what else, your cell phone. I mean, if you practice running with a little bit of extra weight in there, like, and so that when on race day, when you run with when it's the actual weight and it's lighter, like your body is going to be already accustomed to it. It's going to be nothing, instead of like, oh, oh wait, I haven't trained with my hydration gear actually full. So it might be a good way to kind of alleviate some of that extra training. So.
And I remember in your podcast on Eastern States, you did a little bit of weighted, or maybe a lot of weighted training during for that race, if I'm correct.
Yeah. I pulled the tire a lot of pulling the tires, since I needed to simulate those mountains that I was going to be climbing, as far as like weighted step ups and such. Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so you have a stage 2 of WODs here, level 2.
Yeah. So now we're going to start instead. So now we're going to take a movement and add running. Another very simple way, just like we were talking about the 20 air squats every minute on the minute for 1 mile. We can do a lot of different variations on just a very simple body movement and running. So like the one that I have programmed for my athletes several times is one. It's so you run 400 meters and then you come back and you do 20 burpees, and then you run 400 meters and then you come back and do 19 burpees, and you continue to do that all the way down to 1 burpee. So it usually takes you about an hour and 15 minutes to complete this workout. But so that's going to really you're going to start running a lot with the fatigue in your body. At the same time, you're getting through the mental toughness of having to do those burpees every time. Burpee, run, right? So it's just very, very simple as far as like burpees and running, but also very effective in developing mental toughness. So our next example of endurance WODs is endurance WOD number 3. And then, so now we're just going to start adding multiple movements plus the running. And this is where I like to, they're called AMRAPs, which are as many rounds as possible. For example, you have 40 minutes in which you're going to do as many rounds as possible. So a round is run 800 meters, do 10 push-ups, 20 air squats, and 30 sit-ups. So you just continue to do that round as many times as possible in 40 minutes. So there's just so many ways to see how your body's going to react, usually people come out really hot on that first round and like, this is going to be so easy, I'm going to get so many rounds. And then the fatigue starts sitting in, the tiredness, and then you guys start playing with that mental game and just continue to push on. So, but what happens is we get to, as the possibilities really start becoming endless as we start adding in multiple movements, as we start adding in different pieces of fitness equipment. So barbells, kettlebells, we can really start increasing the list and making as many different ways of creating these workouts. So, I'm just going to list a couple other workouts that might sound fun or might sound punishing or might sound like you're like, oh, I'm totally up for a sufferfest. One I thought of was, for time, you do 200 air squats, 200 lunges, and 100 push-ups. And then every 2 minutes while that clock is running, you run 200 meters. So this will be a way just to kind of still get some running. You'll get that lactic acid buildup in all parts of your body. And then just having that little run of 200 meters will continue pushing you through it. So then if we move on to endurance WOD number 4, we are looking at multiple movements plus like a cardio equipment piece. So instead of running, so now we're doing those workouts. We can do the same workouts, but instead of running, we can replace it with, like, if you have access to like a stationary bike, or you have access to a bike trainer, where you put your regular bicycle on a trainer, or a rower, or you can do the cardio piece of burpees too, if you or jump ropes. I mean, there's really so many different ways to create these things. So, and for me, that's the fun of these, is like kind of figuring out ways to test myself, figuring out what are different movements that I can really, push myself into a different state. So, do we have any questions over? I feel like I'm talking real fast and moving through these kind of quickly. So.
Yeah, it's good to pause. Maybe somebody has a similar workout they'd like to share too. That's got kind of this WOD model that Ryan's describing of mixing in running and cardio with some other things.
I was just wondering, like rowing versus running. I mean, I can run a really long time, but rowing, I'm on that thing for 10 minutes and I'm ready to throw up. What do you like? What's the basic equivalent for like running versus rowing?
Great question.
As far as, are you talking like meters and the distance wise? As far as
I guess that's kind of what I had in mind. And then I thought, well, maybe I should just try and go for time instead of meters. But
I mean, obviously, like there are several different ways. The way I like to usually break it down is if I'm going to run a 400 meters, I'm going to row 500 meters. And so that's basically my equivalent. If I'm going to run 800 meters, I'm going to do a 1,000-meter row. You can always switch it into calories too on the rower, in which, doing 20 calories will always, that's always a fun little number. Do 20 calories, do 30 calories, just kind of puts you in a different headspace instead of like always counting meters, counting calories. That's a different mental game in itself. But for the numbers, you can still do, think of a 400-meter run. You're going to, shoot for 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, So if you can think about what your pace is, then think of how long you want to spend on the rower. So if we're doing an 8-minute mile and we're running 400-meter repeats, then we're going to do what? 2 minutes on the rower each time. So you can break it down that way as well. So, and then just spending time on the rower also, I think is going to it's like just start becoming friends with the rower, like if it sucks, then it's telling you everything it needs to tell you. Like you need to become friends with me. So.
But there's a height advantage thing with that rower.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why I don't like the rower. It's the devil for me.
Yeah, I'm 6'3", so the rower for me is like it's in my wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah, see, for me it's tough, and I've competed against different people, and it was never fair. I'm like, you're so much taller than I am. No matter what I tried, I couldn't go faster.
Yeah, I've never used a rower ever. Like, I don't think I've ever been around that piece of equipment. And so could you explain that, Coach Loretta? Like what do you mean by the height having an advantage? And
because you're pulling and you're pushing, and it's like the length of your body, I guess. And I don't know how to explain it any different than that, but it's, my legs, if you compare Ryan, if he's 6'3" and I'm 5 foot, imagine the difference that he gets in one stroke of a row compared to me.
Right.
Even if I go faster, it just didn't matter. I just couldn't keep up.
Right. I'm pulling the chain, twice the distance out from the starting point and then having it go back in. So I've covered twice the distance, every pull and every release, every time.
Leverage advantage.
Yeah. So people in my group would want me to throw that in so they could win. Put the rower in and give us a chance.
And Robert had some insight, looks like, or a question either or.
Yep. Question about the tire pull. Do they make a special belt or a vest with a wire or something that you could use for a tire pull?
Yeah. So there are a couple of like obstacle course racing companies that have a specific tire pull. What I'll try to do after this is post those links in the Ornery Mule Racing just so you can get different options for it. But the one on the Rogue site is for more like it's like a sled pull harness. They want you to kind of buy a sled, but you don't have to buy the sled with it. You can just buy the harness, and then there's a big old carabiner on the end of it. And so I like took the tire, punctured it, and then looped it through with a carabiner. So there are ways to like make it work for you. So
Nice.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, do it yourself. A little more exciting, maybe, huh? More ownership of it. Coach Steph, she says in the chat that maybe you can confirm this. And I know you're not promoting CrossFit, but she's asking a CrossFit question. So she thinks that in CrossFit gyms, they usually use calories as a unit of measurement. Do you know if that's true?
They do a lot of times. Yeah, that seems, it's an easy way they count reps, just like you would do 8 reps of eight curls would be 8 reps, 8 repetitions. And so like using calories is an easy way to count their repetitions as well.
Okay, anybody else question at this juncture?
Just a comment, Steve. The calories thing also levels the
Greg
playing
Sturdy
field.
chiming in here from the trail.
Yeah. It levels the playing field for the leverage advantage on different exercises. Ryan 6'3".
Oh yeah. Good point.
So a squat, he's got a lot further to go than Loretta. So Loretta can squat faster. But calories are all kinetic energies. So they level the playing field on your size.
Good point. Yeah, great. I totally forgot about that.
Okay, so moving on then. What do you think, Coach Ryan? You have more WODs, or I know you wanted to talk today too, possibly about just minimalism and strength.
Yeah, I just want to go over some of the benefits. I think we understand the different variations we could play with on our making alternative workouts for our running workouts. So for me, with running being so monostructural, this is an effective way for without having to put in the long miles. I still need to put in the long miles, right? But this may be one way I don't have to do it all the time. I like to, for like example, on the weekend, instead of doing 2 long runs, I'll do 1 long run and 1 kind of big endurance run. And I say big as far as like 60 minutes or more. So 60 minutes is really a long time. So, and the benefits are like they simulate the fatigue you would experience towards the end of a race, which, I think has helped me greatly in my ultra marathons, because there's no way to avoid it when you're running a 100K or 100 miler. It's like your body is going to get tired, real tired. And so you're going to be coming upon those crossroads. And what are you going to do at that crossroad? Well, if you are simulating that crossroad over and over again of like, am I going to continue on with this workout, or am I going to quit? It's a lot easier to make the health, the higher level choice, I guess. Higher level choice, is that what I want to say? And then it gives an opportunity to build mental toughness with these, because your body is going to hurt, it's different than a run. Like your arms are going to be sore, your back's going to be sore, everything, your whole body will feel fatigue. And I know I keep on talking about fatigue, but this is, for me, that's what I'm wanting to play around with, and also moving on to the next movement can be tough, when you're like, okay, I got to transition from air squats to pull-ups or push-ups. And starting the running can be tough, and you can draw on these workouts when you're sitting at an aid station and don't think you can move. You can remember that, oh wow, I did that enormous burpee workout and I just kept on running. You can draw on these workouts as inspiration when you're out there on your race. And like, I don't know if I have it anymore. It's like I've proven to myself over and over again by doing these really difficult workouts that I can. So moving on to minimal strength, I just wanted to, just touch on some of the stuff as far as minimal strength. When you don't have like a lot of equipment at your disposal, and I think last week on the coaching call, we talked a lot about body movement stuff. So just some of the things that I believe, I'm not trying to counter anything anyone has said. I'm just simply like, these are my opinions, with body movement or with like the minimal strength stuff that we have. Let's say that you only have one dumbbell or at a lighter weight, like for endurance runners or for runners or for endurance athletes, I think higher reps is going to be the way we want to kind of lean towards because since we are so repetitive with our movements with running, like we're really testing our bodies with a lot higher reps. So like higher reps are going to be our way to go. I also think doing strength before you run, and this might be along with the whole fatigue thing that I keep on pushing. Like I want to experience fatigue. So I believe doing strength is more beneficial. At least I prefer it more. And that could also just be, I've been to so many CrossFit classes in which oftentimes the strength piece is in the beginning of class and then the conditioning piece is at the end of the class. So for me, I'd rather just get the strength piece out of the way and then let's go to have the fun and the endurance piece. I put down there in my notes, world is your oyster. Now I have no idea what I meant that this morning. I don't know what that means. Like last night, I'm sure I knew what that exactly meant. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk about the world is your oyster. But this morning I have no idea today I have no idea what that means. Other than I could maybe list a bunch of body movements that I think most of us know, that we went over a lot last week, from everything from air squats to burpees to lunges, to push-ups to pull-ups to then you start adding in some fitness equipment, pull-up bar or those pull-up bars you put around the door frame or a pull-up bar you find in the park. It's just but I think getting stronger is important for runners. It's no longer are we just like this skinny little like little arms that are just like, I don't do any sort of strength training. I just eat all the carbs and I just run as fast as I possibly can. I think these days we really have to work on our strength. This will also help us to recover faster. And also, like, if we have strength, we can do a lot towards injury prevention. At least for myself, I that's what I've noticed. And I know that other coaches are on here that can, I'm sure, attest to those. So, but
well, I don't have, I'm sorry, always interrupt. It's so awkward in Zoom, isn't it? Because if we were in the same room, we could interject a little easier, but I cut your mic in a sense.
No worries.
Yeah. So you do your diversity is unbelievable in your training, like way above anything I do. I do some alternative stuff, but not near as much. Do you find that mentally stimulating? Does that keep you motivated doing a variety of different things?
Yeah, I think being constantly varied can be very stimulating. It can also be very exhausting, like having to come up with another workout. Like I'm going to come up with another workout. I'm going to have to come up with a different way to do this. I tend not to do the same workout very often. I constantly keeping it varied. Though I do have kind of my go-to endurance WODs that I've developed over the years. And as I get closer to like race day, I'll like test myself on these certain, like, I guess, benchmark endurance WODs to see where I'm kind of at, like, am I closer, am I faster? Where am I at? Did that just completely demolish me, or did that, do I feel like I'm really ready for my race? So.
Yeah, I would think the diversity, we always push mindfulness, and Coach Val was talking about that last week, and with mindset as well. And when you get a routine, it's hard to be mindful when you're doing the same routine. You just kind of get going with that flow. And I have this great video that I love. It's about this guy that quit his job and he went on a bike ride all the way down the coast of the Americas, actually all the way down to South America. And he has this line. He says, "Routine is the enemy of time." And his idea is he wants to cherish time and not be bored, like doing the same thing over and over. And so our brains are designed, he believes, that to be stimulated all the time. And
Yeah. And I think
that's something we fight with running, right? Is to be good at running, you need to put in a certain amount of time, and but maybe it zaps our motivation a little bit, or stimulation.
Sure. Go ahead, Loretta.
Sorry, it is hard to interrupt. Sorry. I kind of noticed that today I'm taking part of a dice challenge. So every 4 hours we're running whatever the dice rolls. So it's just basically expect the unexpected. We have no idea what number's going to come up. And we have to run, and we're also doing a scavenger hunt. And I'm like, these miles are flying by because I'm not thinking about what I'm running. I'm just thinking about, oh, this is so much fun, and I can't wait to, get these miles in and come up with some more pictures, So anything you can do, I think, along with strength training and those kind of things, just throwing things in and mixing it up just to keep it fun. And yeah.
And, along those lines, like how can we make this an easy success for us? So maybe once a week, you just designate that day to be your alternative workout day. I know for runners, it's so easy to just like, I'm just going to put my running shoes on and go for a run, because that's just easy. It's so automatic. I just put one on and here we go. So to maybe like Tuesdays, I'm always going to do I'm going to do an alternative workout that day, and, just start playing around with it. If that's like, great, I'm going to run once around my block if you live in the city, and then I'm going to do 2 different movements, and I'm going to do that for 30 minutes and see how many times I can do that. Just start playing around with it and see how they feel. Maybe it's really tough. Maybe it's too easy. Maybe we need to add burpees. If you want to make these workouts harder, always add burpees. Just add lots of burpees to them.
I'm doing something too that's kind of making it fun over the time. My daughter's in college and she's away still. So every day, one of us picks up some sort of a CrossFit type workout, and we text it to each other, and then we add that to our run as well. And then when we're done, we'll send each other our stopwatch time or whatever, and see where we're at. So we won't reveal until both of us are done, because we don't want to set a time for somebody else to beat, but that's also kind of keeps it fun.
Awesome. And then for me, like some of the 3 like favorite, if you have like a dumbbell, just a simple dumbbell, if you do it's called a goblet squat, in which you hold it kind of like as you were drinking a goblet, you kind of hold the dumbbell like this. I think those are really highly effective. Besides air squats, just a little something various to kind of like engage the core, and then also get your squat on. I think pull-ups are great. And I think any sort of like a carry, like either you're carrying your dumbbells around the block, like in a farmer's carry, or getting a heavy bag of weights / books, or if you have a sandbag and like carrying it like this around the block, you just see how that feels, I guess is what I would say. Like start experimenting a little bit. Maybe Tuesday, instead of alternatives to running, could also just be like you're experimenting with different ways in which you can work out. Right now there are so many home workouts and that people are having, that we really are at a time where you can really pick and choose and what interests, what strokes that curiosity, put in a saved folder and maybe try it out on your designated alternative workout day.
Some of these workouts makes me think that we ought to all just go work on a farm.
Yeah. Well, the whole functional fitness portion of it, right? Like
right.
Fitness that is functional, that is in everyday life.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, I know we're getting close to the top of the hour, and the thing that I've been working on, this mantra these last couple of months, even before the pandemic, is honoring the workout. There's definitely comes a time during the workout where all I want to do is stop. All I want to do is quit. All I want to do is like go slower, or like I'll just go easy, and I have to remember to honor the workout. Like a lot of times I wrote the workout. So I'm like, you got to really honor this thing, you know, instead of giving up on it. Just like, even if I'm not necessarily going faster, I'm still giving it my all, you know? So I really want to honor the workout because, you know, bring integrity to it and just give it my all, you know? So it's been helping me lately when I'm in those deep depths and where it's all I want to do is quit. And I just remember honoring the workout, honor that workout. And I'm not just saying anything. I'm not just saying endurance WODs, but like even for like long runs, like I said I was going to run 7 miles. I just want to honor that. I want to honor that I said I was going to run 7 miles today. I'm not talking about pushing through injuries or like hurting yourself. I'm just like, there's probably going to come a time around mile 5 or mile 6 where I'm like, maybe I should just walk the rest of the way in, you know? Who's going to know? Who's going to know, you know?
Right.
But I want to honor that workout. So honor the workout is a little mantra for yourself today when you get after your workouts this weekend.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that ties in, of course, with Coach Val was saying. Coach Val was saying last week. You know, using mindset and mantras and meditation in a sense. You know, it's kind of that ongoing motivation that we need, especially during this pandemic.
For sure. And then let's see. For I guess a little plug for everyone. You know, the Midwest States is 100 virtual races coming up in June. I don't know if everyone knows about this, but you know they're going to do the virtual race. There's 2 different options, right? There's the 100K done in 10 days, or there's a 100-mile done in 10 days. And so I'm going to be. I want to lead a group of people through 10 days around the middle of June, in which you got the entire day to run 10 miles. And then we'll have our Zoom aid station check-in at 8 o'clock at night. So you have the whole day to run your 10 miles, however you want to break that up. I'm planning on trying to get mine done in the morning, so it's just out of the way. And then at 8 o'clock at night, we'll all meet in the Zoom room, check in, see how everything's going. And every night we'll be having one of those things for 10 days. So I would love to have anyone join me on taking on the Midwest States 100-mile virtual race. So.
Yeah, that sounds great. We've got to stay connected one way or another. All right, anybody else have any partying comments, questions here for Coach Ryan? We're going to round this out here in the next minutes.
Hey, Coach Ryan, this is Coach Ryan. Question about the...
Coach, oh my God, what's going on?
Question about WOD 1 where you're integrating some weight. So I've never done that before. How do you kind of ease into that?
Well, I would think, you know, maybe start out, you have backpacks, maybe throw in do you have like a 10-pound dumbbell or anything?
Sure.
Or just start out with a 10-pound dumbbell, throw it in your backpack, maybe throw a couple towels around it so that it doesn't bounce around. And, you know, go for a 3 or 4 mile run and see how that feels. If it feels a little easy, like you really felt like you were just running as you were always running, you know, continue to add weight or find a weight that is like, wow, okay, like after a mile I was really struggling. So find that balance, you know, where you feel like you're getting a good workout, but not
I guess my question is kind of like, do you shorten your distance? Like like if I normally do a 5-mile run, do you do like half that with the weight? Or,
you know, actually I wouldn't do it. For me, my suggestion would be to do it on time. Like maybe do it for 30 minutes, see how that feels. So you don't have that constraint of like, I have to run 2 miles. Like I'm going to run for 30 minutes this time. I'm going to run for 40 minutes. Then you get work up to an hour. And then now you start adding in weight and repeat it again. Now I'm going to do 20 pounds. I'm going to do a run for 30 minutes. Then I'm going to do a run for 40 minutes. Then I'm going to do a run for 60 minutes. See how that kind of progressing your way through it and see how your body reacts to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, all great stuff, Coach Ryan. Yeah, you're a wealth of knowledge and a gift to us here at Ornery Mule Racing. So Michelle, I don't know if you had any parting comments here.
I don't really have anything. I just thank you, Coach Ryan. Thank you, Steve, also for organizing this, and for all the coaches and everybody coming in today. It's a lot of fun and gets me inspired every week.
Yeah, I know we're plugging our brand here, those of you that are along with us in this, but we really do have the greatest coaches. They are just not good coaches. They're also just great people. You can just feel that about Coach Ryan and all the coaches that come on. And we've gotten so lucky. Like they are sincerely some of my favorite people in the world. So that goes along with good coaching, I think, is having good people. So, all right, Coach Ryan, anything else?
No, everyone have a great week.
Hope you guys all have a good weekend, and we'll see you at the book club on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be the longest day of my whole life. When I line up, yeah, I know definitely there's no chance without my crew led by my wife. If I'm drinking, then I may just make it through, 'cause my tailwind gives me everything I need. And if I lube up and I cover all the spots, I may survive without a major chafe or bleed. 'Cause I will run 100 miles, and I would run 100 more, just to be the one who ran 100 miles within the 24. When I'm working, all I think about all day is